A cabin that was shrouded in mystery was imprisoned in the forest for 3 decades. Michael Landon constructed it as his personal retreat. However, no one was permitted to enter it subsequent to his passing. For decades, locals discussed it in whispers. The windows were obscured by vines. The entrance was tightly sealed. Eventually, the key was discovered by an individual. Everyone was taken aback by the contents they found: personal items, confidential correspondence, and an item that disclosed his most sinister side. The cabin contained secrets that he had never intended for anyone to discover. Michael Landon was born in Forest Hills, Queens, on October 31st, 1936. Eugene Maurice Orowitz was his genuine name. He was the son of a Jewish-American actor. His mother was an Irish Catholic performer. Their marriage was fraught with tension. Home disputes were perpetually precipitated by religious beliefs. Evelyn, Eugene's sibling, was born 3 years prior to him. The family relocated to Collingswood, New Jersey in 1941. Eugene was only 4 years old. His childhood would be significantly influenced by that modest village. Eugene never perceived himself as intelligent despite his genius-level IQ. School was challenging. He was subjected to bullying by his peers. He was not comprehended by his educators. Additionally, the municipality was detrimental. It was profoundly anti-Semitic. Christian children were required to attend church on Wednesdays, while he was compelled to remain at home. He recalled standing alone, cleaning blackboards, and contemplating the necessity of his uniqueness. That sensation of rejection persisted in his mind. However, the incident that transpired at home was more distressing. His mother suffered from severe mental health issues. She made numerous suicide attempts. Eugene observed events that were inappropriate for a minor. During a family vacation excursion, she wandered into the ocean with the intention of ending her own life. Eugene, a mere child, pursued her. His torso was struck by waves. He let out a shriek. She was unable to cease. He struck her in the face in order to induce her to retreat. She conducted herself as though it had never transpired. However, Eugene vomited shortly thereafter. He was afflicted by dread. Frequently, these types of scenarios transpired. He referred to it as suicide drama for days. It was a state of pandemonium. He never experienced a sense of security. His suffering did not conclude there. Eugene soaked the bed. It was not his responsibility. It was medicinal. Nevertheless, his mother refuted this assertion. She believed that he acted out of sloth. Therefore, she censured him. In a violent manner, she hanged his wet linens outside his window. The school bus halted directly in front of the residence. His colleagues observed him each morning. He was subjected to repeated humiliation. Eugene endeavored to halt it. He would awaken before dawn, retrieve the linens, dash to the laundromat, launder them, and steal back home. He attempted to illegally enter the establishment, even when it was closed. He was unable to endure the embarrassment. She once sent him to a sleepover solely to evaluate him. The situation would be exacerbated if he were to pee the bed in that location. In the event that he did not, she declared that he had been fabricating the entire time. He was unable to prevail. Years later, he produced a film that depicted this nightmare. It was referred to as The Loneliest Runner. It was his method of disclosing the truth. However, a glimmer of optimism emerged amid the agony. Sports. He discovered tranquility in the act of hurling javelins. He was swift, powerful, and resolute. He hurled the javelin 193 feet, 4 inches during his high school years. In 1954, that was the longest throw by a high school pupil in the United States. He established a new national record the following year by throwing 211 feet 7 inches. Suddenly, individuals took note of him. The same youngster who was previously ridiculed was now featured in the media. Eugene was mesmerized by the words, "a solidly built kid with broad shoulders," that a coach had used to characterize him. He experienced a sense of recognition for the first time. He was awarded a scholarship to attend the University of Southern California. He aspired to participate in the Olympics. However, he harbored an unusual conviction. He believed that his power was derived from his lengthy hair, similar to Samson in the Bible. His colleagues were skeptical of this assertion. They subjected him to a crew cut as a joke. His tosses experienced a 50-foot decline. He experienced a state of despair. He exerted himself excessively in an effort to recuperate. He ruptured the ligaments in his shoulder. His athletic career had concluded. His college years were concluded. In an instance, his aspirations were rendered obsolete. Eugene was once more bewildered. In order to subsist, he pursued unconventional employment. He stocked stores, sold blankets, and unloaded freight. One day, a colleague requested his assistance in rehearsing lines for an acting audition. Eugene outperformed his acquaintance in reading the passage. A talent evaluator recognized potential in him. However, there was an issue. Hollywood may perceive his name as too Jewish. Consequently, he launched an audacious maneuver. He conducted a survey of a telephone directory. The name Michael Landon was appropriated. Subsequently, he encountered the term Landon, which captured his attention. Eugene Maurice Urowitz was renamed Michael Landon. After that transformation, he secured a position on telephone time within 4 months. His professional journey had commenced. However, the true fame of the filmmaker was achieved in 1957 with the release of a peculiarly small horror film. It was entitled, "I Was a Teenage Werewolf." Michael portrayed a tormented adolescent who evolved into a monstrous creature. People were taken aback by the concept. An adolescent werewolf had never been featured in a horror film before. The film was produced at a cost of less than $123,000, but it generated nearly $2 million in revenue. It achieved immense popularity. Hollywood was transfixed by his ferocious performance. This was followed by The Legend of Tom Dooley in 1959. Michael portrayed a Confederate soldier who, unaware of the conclusion of the war, inadvertently attacked a stagecoach. The film was inspired by a popular folk melody and was based on a true tale. It was tragic, romantic, and dramatic. He executed it flawlessly. This role, which was cast mere months prior to his breakthrough, demonstrated his ability to command a Western. In the same year, everything underwent a significant transformation. He received a telephone call regarding a forthcoming television series. It was initially referred to as The Restless Gun. However, it was subsequently renamed Bonanza. Michael was selected as Little Joe Cartwright, the youngest of 3 siblings. Bonanza was not merely another Western when it premiered on Saturday, September 12, 1959. Television was eternally altered by it. It was the first Western to be wholly shot in color. The majority of individuals continued to possess black and white televisions. However, NBC was anticipating the future. They were of the opinion that the stunning landscapes surrounding Lake Tahoe and the Ponderosa Ranch would persuade individuals to renovate. That wager proved advantageous. Bonanza was the first to introduce color televisions, which quickly became the new standard. The cost of producing each episode ranges from $100,000 to $150,000, which is equivalent to nearly $1 million in today's currency. The show's opulent film-like aesthetic, which was achieved with the assistance of that budget, established a new standard for television. However, Bonanza was not solely about the gorgeous landscape. The focus was on individuals. Michael Landon was one individual who stood out. Little Joe, his character, captured the affections of audiences worldwide. Landon received admirer mail from 64 of the 70 countries in which Bonanza was broadcast by 1966. He received over 5,000 letters per week, which was significantly more than any of his co-stars. The letters were composed in every language that could be imagined. Fans were convinced that Little Joe genuinely comprehended their perspective. Landon quipped that he could now communicate, "I don't speak your language," in Swedish and German. All he had to do was acquire the knowledge in Japanese. Landon had aspirations of becoming a javelin thrower and achieving prominence in the past. He never anticipated that strangers would recognize him for his acting abilities, let alone in dozens of languages. The ratings were quickly dominated by Bonanza. It did not even rank among the top 30 in its inaugural year. It entered the top 20 by the second season. It was ranked second by the third season. By the sixth season, 1964-65, it had achieved the top spot. In that year, it garnered a 36.3 rating and more than 19 million viewers on a weekly basis. Bonanza was the preferred television program among nearly 60% of American viewers during a specific period in early 1964. No other program came close. Bonanza dominated the airwaves for 3 consecutive seasons. Competing networks attempted to respond. CBS introduced The Judy Garland Show, My Living Doll, and The Joey Bishop Show. None of them functioned. The Cartwrights were unstoppable. Bonanza remained in the top 10 for 11 years and in the top 20 for 12. The cast's bond was equally robust behind the scenes. Lorne Greene, who portrayed Ben Cartwright, established himself as a genuine parental figure. Michael Landon and Dan Blocker, who portrayed his sons, frequently sought his counsel, both on and off the set. Greene also assisted in the negotiation of contracts for himself, Landon, and Blocker, which resulted in all 3 individuals becoming millionaires. However, not all was flawless. Landon was once referred to as a pugnacious brat by director William Claxton during the early stages, and Pernell Roberts, who portrayed Adam Cartwright, was in perpetual conflict with the producers. He departed after the 6th season, due to his dissatisfaction with the writing. Still, Blocker and Landon developed a close friendship. They even acquired beachfront property in conjunction with Greene. Landon's influence expanded in tandem with his fan base. He had already persuaded NBC to allow him to write a script by the time he was 25 years old in 1962. He believed it would be effortless. He was mistaken. The initial script necessitated 2 lengthy days to compose. He was so worn out that he was unable to compose another piece for nearly 3 years. However, he discovered a new passion after persevering. He stated that the most challenging aspect of his employment was composing for television. In 1968, Landon added an additional title, Director. Directors and actors can occasionally take shortcuts. Writers cannot. He was currently engaged in the pursuit of acting, writing, and directing at the age of 31. He was the show's creative core and maintained his commitment to his team. The same staff that he trusted on Bonanza followed him to Highway to Heaven and Little House on the Prairie. Landon was not merely experimenting with the camera. He was establishing his own narrative empire. He became one of the most influential figures in television as a result of this approach. However, in 1972, everything underwent a significant transformation. Dan Blocker, who portrayed Hoss, passed away abruptly following gallbladder surgery. He was only 43 years old. Everyone was devastated by his passing. Landon and Greene were particularly affected by the loss. The trio had collaborated for 13 years, relying on one another as if they were a true family. The decision by NBC to continue Bonanza without Blocker was a shock to Greene, who described it as a real death in the family. He subsequently acknowledged that the program should have been terminated. It was not the same without Hoss. Hoss's nuptials was originally intended to be the subject of the inaugural episode of the new season, Forever. Landon revised it subsequent to Blocker's passing. The outcome was devastating. Little Joe pursues justice after the violent deaths of his wife and brother-in-law. The episode featured subdued tributes, such as a slow focus on Haas's photograph and Joe and Ben weeping together. It was rated 4. It was necessary for viewers to bid farewell. However, this was insufficient to salvage the program. Bonanza was relocated from Sundays to Tuesdays by NBC. The audience failed to comprehend the message. Ratings experienced a significant decline. It was terminated by NBC on November 6, 1972. Green was incensed. He was granted only 2 days' notice. "You do not do that to anyone," he stated. The decision was subsequently reversed by NBC, but the sets had already been torn down. Even a street sweeper gets a week. On January 16, 1973, the final episode was broadcast. Bonanza concluded without a fitting farewell, following 14 seasons and 431 episodes. However, Landon's legacy did not conclude there. Little House on the Prairie was developed by him in 1974. NBC was skeptic. A program about pioneers did not shout hit. However, Landon possessed influence. He leveraged his daughter's enthusiasm for the books as a sales proposal. In March 1974, the 2-hour pilot was broadcast. By September, it had evolved into a weekly series. Rather than merely being the protagonist, Landon was the master of all operations. He was responsible for the production of all 204 episodes from 1974 to 1983, as well as the writing of numerous and the direction of many. He labored rapidly, rarely requiring additional attempts. He would say print and proceed when a scenario was successful. The program was transformed into his own, his vision, tone, and style. He produced 3 additional television films subsequent to its conclusion. Landon was no longer merely an actor. He was a television icon by that time. Director William Claxton, composer David Rose, and other members of his Bonanza team accompanied him. He ensured that his companion Victor French secured roles, initially as Mr. Edwards, and later as his co-star in Highway to Heaven. He annually allocated his earnings from the NBC Rose Parade to the purchase of Christmas gifts for the Little House staff. However, behind the scenes, the situation was not always favorable. Karen Grassel Engels advocated for equitable compensation. Despite the fact that Little House was a top 10 success in 1975, Landon refused to grant her a raise, arguing that NBC did not believe her character was popular. He even stated that she should receive the same compensation as the juvenile actors. Grassel was disgraced. Even worse, Landon often reduced her screen time to less than 8 minutes per episode, resulting in a significant decrease in her residuals. She was once paid a mere $1.27 per rebroadcast. She was overcome with a sense of imprisonment for more than 2 seasons. Money alone was not the issue. Landon's misbehavior became increasingly unpleasant. During rehearsals, Grassel detailed his vulgar sexual remarks. He once made explicit comments about women prior to filming a boudoir scene. She stated, "I was paralyzed." Melissa Gilbert and other actresses verified that Landon's vulgar humor caused them discomfort. Everyone was taken aback by his affair with Cindy Clarico, an 18-year-old cosmetics assistant. Despite being married, he openly boasted about it. According to reports, Lynn, his wife, hurled a vodka container at his head upon learning of the situation. Kodak and other advertisers have severed their affiliations. The press was delighted. Fans were unable to reconcile the perfect TV dad with the fact that the man had left his marriage for a woman who was younger than his daughter. Landon married Cindy in 1983, despite the scandal. Jennifer and Sean were their offspring. He had 9 children from 3 marriages by that time. He was amiable and lively with his youngest child. Unfortunately, Sean was unaware that his father was a celebrity. Jennifer recalled that he treated her as an adult, exhibiting my left foot to her at the age of 6. However, his elder offspring sustained injuries. He had wished for his stepdaughter, Cheryl, to survive a near-fatal car accident, and she idolized him. However, he shattered her heart by abandoning her mother. Melissa Gilbert, who perceived Landon as a paternal figure, was conflicted. "I am obligated to collaborate with Mike," she stated, "but he has committed an act that has divided my world into two hostile factions." Subsequently, his son, Michael Jr., directed The Father I Knew, a film that examines the experience of loving an individual who causes one to suffer. Highway to Heaven was released by Landon in 1984. He portrayed Jonathan Smith, a celestial who assists individuals on Earth. He had the concept while he was stuck in traffic in Beverly Hills. Everything would flow more smoothly if people simply behaved, he believed. The program was broadcast for 5 seasons, totaling 111 episodes. His angel, like Landon, was fallible but endeavored to do good. Landon experienced severe migraines while skiing in early 1991. Pancreatic cancer was diagnosed by physicians on April 5th. It had infiltrated his liver. He was 54 years old. He quipped about his illness on The Tonight Show a month later, imploring people not to disregard warning signs. He believed that smoking and alcohol were contributing factors. He had attempted to cease after his Highway to Heaven co-star Victor French passed away from lung cancer. Landon refused to allow tabloids to dictate his narrative. He extended an invitation to reporters to visit his Malibu acreage on April 8th. "Don't find this amusing," he stated, "but if you're going to defeat something, you're not going to do it standing in the corner." The press was unyielding, as one false headline falsely claimed that he and Cindy were attempting to conceive another child during his treatment. His Malibu residence was not merely a residence, it was a venue for barbecues and musical performances that was frequented by his family and friends. It became a final gathering place as his condition deteriorated. All 9 of his offspring returned home the weekend prior to his death. There was no longer any significance to the old grievances. At 1:20 p.m., Michael Landon passed away on July 1, 1991, while holding Cindy's hand. His offspring were told, "I love you all very much. However, would you be so kind as to descend and allow me to spend some time with Cindy?" His funeral was attended by 500 individuals. Ronald Reagan referred to his battle as a story that touched the heart of every American. Melissa Gilbert stated, "He had integrity." His gravestone bears the inscription, "He seized life with joy." He generously contributed to the welfare of others. He leaves a legacy of mirth and affection. His Malibu mansion was left abandoned for an extended period following his death. Locals referred to it as Michael Landon's ghost house. The walls were encrusted with vines, and the fogged windows created the illusion of a house that was trapped in time. Its unsettling state was the subject of discussion on online forums. However, there was more to the narrative. Landon had sold it for $6 million in 1989, which is equivalent to $11 million in today's currency. In 2014, it was sold for $40 million following a renovation. On Hollywood Boulevard, his star continues to radiate. However, it was not about fame for those who knew him. Don't hesitate. There are only so many tomorrows, as his daughter Shauna advised him. This was the way Landon lived and the way he wished to be remembered.